I had to accept that if this isn't something I've chosen, but it's something that God has allowed, then God has allowed it for a good reason. And I think that we both have grown from it tremendously. I think that now, I think that at the time I was so mad at DeVon, but now I think what he did was very brave.
A couple writes an entire book telling the world to wait, to be patient, to trust God's timing before rushing into love. DeVon Franklin and Meagan became the poster couple for faith-based relationships in Hollywood, and 9 years later, the marriage ended with no children and no second chances. The story everyone thought they knew turned out to be completely backwards, and what actually happened between them is only now starting to make sense. Before the divorce papers and the Instagram statements, these two looked like an unlikely match that somehow worked perfectly. DeVon was the preacher turned movie producer, a man who built his career on faith-based messaging and inspirational content. Meagan had been acting since childhood, a Hollywood presence who grew up in front of cameras and established herself as one of the most recognizable faces in the industry. They tied the knot in 2012 and quickly became known for their faith-forward approach to relationships, co-authoring a best-selling book called The Wait that encouraged readers to practice abstinence and patience before marriage. Let God handle the timing, they told everyone, and focus on building a real connection instead of rushing into physical intimacy. The message resonated with millions of readers who saw them as living proof that faith-based relationships could thrive even in Hollywood. For nearly a decade, red carpets and church events and interviews showed them presenting a united front, always speaking openly about their faith and their belief that God brought them together. It looked like proof that doing things the right way really could lead to a lasting marriage. But what nobody saw was how complicated things had become behind the scenes. The criticism actually started long before the divorce became public. Church communities had opinions about Meagan from the very beginning, and those opinions weren't always kind. She was a Hollywood actress who chose roles that didn't always align with what some Christians expected from a pastor's wife. The clothes she wore drew constant commentary, with people questioning whether her style was appropriate for someone married to a man of God.
I was at the grocery store, and I saw you, and you had your breast shown. Okay, so we're going to cover up, right?
That is not what we're here for. She's not going to cover up. She's going to wear what she want to wear. In the name of Jesus. Amen.
When DeVon and I got married, I no longer was receiving criticism from just people in the world. I was receiving criticism from people who were Christians.
DeVon found himself constantly defending her choices, pushing back against critics who thought she should cover up more or dress differently. Meagan later talked about how brutal some of these attacks felt, saying she received criticism not just from people in the secular world, but from Christians who went after her character and her husband. None of that prepared her for what came next. The news broke in 2022 that DeVon and Meagan were ending their marriage after 9 years together. Both released public statements, and for a moment it seemed mutual and peaceful, but then DeVon started doing interviews that painted a very different picture. A selfie of himself with tears on his face circulated everywhere, and he talked about feeling broken, about his entire belief system being shaken. Signing paperwork as an unmarried man for the first time in almost a decade left him devastated, and he made it clear he never imagined being single again. He described buying a piece of property and seeing his name on the contract without the word married next to it, and that moment brought him to tears. When he said "I do" at the altar, he explained, "There was never a moment of thinking I don't, and living in the I don't felt like unimaginable pain." The internet watched all of this and came to an obvious conclusion, that Meagan must have left him, because why else would a man of faith be this publicly shattered? And that's when the criticism that had been simmering for years exploded into something much worse. People from church communities who apparently always had reservations about Meagan now felt vindicated in their concerns. She dressed too provocatively, they said, and she cared more about her acting career than about being a supportive wife and mother. DeVon wanted things she wasn't ready to give, according to the speculation, and her ambition got in the way of what a Christian marriage should look like. With DeVon's emotional interviews painting him as the wounded party, Meagan became the villain in a story she hadn't even told her side of yet. The narrative took hold quickly, and for 2 years most people accepted it as truth without questioning whether there might be more to the story. Here's where everything shifts in a way nobody expected. During press rounds for her film Divorce in the Black, Meagan finally addressed what really happened, and her version of events didn't match the narrative that had been floating around for 2 years. DeVon filed for divorce, not. She described being blindsided, saying one moment they were in the marriage, and the next moment he was done. Sitting with her anger toward God took a long time before she could even process what happened, and she talked about having to accept that even though she didn't choose this outcome, God allowed it for a reason.
DeVon Franklin was way too good for you.
Oh, no, DeVon left me.
He left you.
Yeah.
The interviewer pushed back at one point, suggesting that DeVon Franklin was way too good for her, and Meagan corrected them directly by saying, "No, DeVon left me. She went through a lot to be with him," she explained, and after all of that, he was the one who walked away. This revelation reframed everything people thought they knew about the situation. All those tearful interviews where DeVon talked about being broken and abandoned came from the man who actually initiated the split. The heartbroken husband act was coming from the person who pulled the plug, and suddenly public sympathy started shifting in Meagan's direction. People began questioning why DeVon allowed the narrative to paint her as the one who walked away when he knew the truth the entire time. Some called his behavior sneaky, pointing out how he positioned himself as the victim while letting his ex-wife take the blame. Others noted that he once claimed he didn't like actresses and didn't want to be with one, but made an exception for Meagan, and now he was pursuing acting himself. The contradictions started piling up, and the image of the broken-hearted preacher started looking more like a carefully managed public relations strategy. While Meagan processed her divorce in private and dealt with the fallout of being cast as the villain, DeVon was already moving forward with someone new. A fitness trainer named Maria Castillo entered the picture, and the relationship went public quickly. The detail that really got people talking wasn't the relationship itself, but how it came together in the first place. Maria got introduced to DeVon by a man named Mike Trussell, and here's the connection that made jaws drop across the internet. Mike Trussell used to be Meagan Good's personal trainer. The same man who counted Meagan's lunges and worked with her on her fitness was now playing matchmaker for her ex-husband, introducing him to the woman who would become his next wife. The internet had a field day with this information, dissecting every angle of how messy this situation looked. DeVon didn't seem bothered by any of the commentary or criticism surrounding how he met Maria.
Newlywed life is the best life. I mean, I just got to tell everybody, it's an amazing. I mean, Maria is the best partner I could have ever prayed for.
He started referring to her as a gift from God and speaking openly about how happy she made him, calling newlywed life the best life and praising Maria as the best partner he could have ever prayed for. Her commitment to fitness keeps him on his toes, he told interviewers, and everything about his public statements suggested a man who had moved on completely from his previous marriage without looking back. December 2024 brought an engagement in Hawaii with DeVon getting down on one knee and making it official. By August 2nd of 2025, they made it legal at Casa Lago in Beverly Hills, a venue that set the stage for what looked like a Hollywood production. A gospel choir performed during the ceremony, T.D. Jakes was reportedly in the building to officiate or offer blessings, and famous faces filled the guest list from start to finish. The long braids, the bright smile, the fit physique, the gorgeous features, all of it looked remarkably familiar to anyone who followed DeVon's previous relationship. Fans started calling Maria Meagan 2.0. Pointing out that DeVon seemed to have a very specific type when it came to the women he pursued. What really got people talking came next when DeVon and Maria started speaking publicly about wanting children together. DeVon looked genuinely excited about the prospect of becoming a father, and starting a family was clearly a priority for both of them as they discussed their future plans. This is where the math became uncomfortable for a lot of observers. 9 years of marriage to Meagan produced no kids, and now less than 3 years with Maria had them already planning a family with enthusiasm. Online speculation exploded with theories about what this meant, with some suggesting that DeVon may have wanted children all along, and that his desire for a family played a role in why the marriage ended. The theory went that Meagan either couldn't or wouldn't give him children, and once he realized the marriage wasn't going to produce a family, he decided to move on to someone who could give him what he wanted. Others pushed back against this speculation, arguing that private conversations between a husband and wife stay private for a reason, and that outsiders have no way of knowing what decisions were made or what challenges existed behind closed doors. Neither DeVon nor Meagan has publicly confirmed why they didn't have children during their marriage, and making assumptions about something so personal crosses a line for many observers, but his newfound enthusiasm for fatherhood definitely fueled conversations about what really went wrong, and the contrast between his apparent excitement now versus 9 childless years before left people drawing their own conclusions. Some started viewing the situation as DeVon wasting Meagan's time during her prime years, taking what he wanted from the marriage in terms of public image and book sales and speaking engagements, and then leaving when he decided she wasn't good enough to be the mother of his children. Meagan navigated her own path forward with actor Jonathan Majors, and that pairing quickly became one of the most talked about in Hollywood for reasons that weren't always positive. The relationship turned into a lightning rod for opinions, with everyone having something to say about whether Meagan was making a mistake or following her heart. The contrast between her situation and DeVon's couldn't be more obvious, creating a visual story that practically wrote itself. DeVon was remarried and showing off glamorous wedding photos at a Beverly Hills venue with celebrity guests and baby plans on the horizon, living what looked like his best life with his younger bride. Meagan was dealing with constant public scrutiny over her choice of partner, defending a relationship that came with legal drama and reputation issues, with no clear fairy tale ending in sight. Some have suggested her relationship with Jonathan might be more about rehabilitating his image than genuine love, a PR arrangement designed to soften public perception of a man convicted of assault. Others believe she truly cares about him and is simply trying to live her life, despite all the noise from people who think they know better. Either way, the two paths these former spouses took after their divorce couldn't look more different. The public narrative cast Meagan as the one who broke a good man's heart for years, and one interview changed everything about how people saw the situation. DeVon filed for divorce, and Meagan picked up the pieces while the internet blamed her for walking away from something sacred. Now he's remarried and planning a family and seemingly thriving in a new chapter that looks picture perfect from the outside, while she navigates a complicated relationship that invites constant judgment from strangers who feel entitled to opinions about her choices. The couple that once wrote the book on waiting and trusting God's plan became a cautionary tale about how different reality can be from perception, and about how the person controlling the narrative often controls how history remembers events. Maybe the lesson here isn't about who was right or wrong in this marriage that ended without children after 9 years. Maybe it's simpler than that, because we never really know what's happening inside someone else's relationship, and the person who looks like the victim isn't always the one who got hurt the most. DeVon played the wounded party perfectly while filing the papers himself, and Meagan stayed quiet while taking the blame for something she didn't do. Now the truth is out there, and what people do with that information says more about them than it does about either person in this situation. The streets are definitely talking, and what they're saying has changed a lot since Meagan finally told her side of the story. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss any of the celebrity gossip. Thanks for watching.